B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Baruch Hashem, we're in a new location. We'll try to learn some things today. Chazal says that if you're going to start a shiur and you have a new crowd, you should start with a joke. So one time there was a rabbi that went to a new keilah, and he comes to the keilah and he says, okay, I'm going to give a shiur. Oh, Baruch haba, come give a shiur. It's nice. So he starts talking about Shabbat. He says Shabbat is very important. It's the fourth commandment. It's if you drive on Shabbat, it's a big problem. And he starts. The Gabbai stops and goes, no, what are you doing? You can't. It's too much. He goes, no, what do you want me to talk about? He goes, no, I'm talking about something else. He goes, okay. He starts again. He goes, okay. Let's put Shabbat aside for a second. Talk about kosher. Kosher. Hashem told us that we could only eat the pure animals. The impure animals are making us foolish. No, stop. What are you doing? Have a party after Shabbat. No, you can't. People are not going to come to my party. Okay. So third, he'll start something else. So he starts talking about Zera Levatala, which is wasting seed. Immediately when he even says the word, guys, no, please, come on, you're trying, what are you doing? Please, you have to stop. He goes, so what do you want me to talk about? Let's talk about Judaism. So this is our generation. Baruch Hashem, our generation, on one end, we have the good news, which is that we're closer to the Mashiach than any other generation. That's obvious. But we're the generation of the Mashiach. We have all the signs. 50 years ago, we didn't have any of the signs. Today, whether it's the red cow or any other type of astrological signs, many other different things that Chazal have told us that are going to happen at the end of times, we have all of the signs. Everything except the Mashiach. So we know we're the door of the Mashiach. We're the generation of the Mashiach. That's the good news. The bad news is that we still have a large majority of Am Yisrael that are not following Torah and mitzvot. And the reason is one of two things. For 99% of them, there's always an exception to every rule, but the majority of people are either not following Torah and mitzvot either because they don't know or they don't believe. Either they don't know what the Torah says and they think that driving on Shabbat it's okay because I'm going to Knesset, or they don't believe that Torah is real, that Moshe got it in Mount Sinai. Come on, you're telling me some guy went on a mountain 3,300 years ago and people saw it and they saw the words in Shemayim and they heard the sounds and they saw the sounds and all of these miracles. There was a pillar of fire, a pillar, a cloud, all food coming from Shemayim. Come on, this is too mystical for me. It's like Harry Potter. So they don't believe. So our goal should all be to learn it so we know it. And the second thing is to teach it. If you can teach it to people, like we're trying to do today, Baruch Hashem, then you do it. If Hashem didn't give you the skill set to teach it people, teach your family. If your family already knows, teach them again. If they still don't want to hear you, you teach yourself. The key is to make sure that you have the Torah living inside you at all times. So since there's many new people here that don't know who I am, I'll do a brief introduction of who I am and why you should listen to me or why you shouldn't listen to me. You make the decision based on yourself. Most of the stuff that I say, in regards to Torah, it's all Torah. It has nothing to do with my opinion. I didn't write it. Hashem didn't ask my permission to write it. He didn't ask my opinion either. I'll say whatever the Torah says, and everyone makes a decision based on that. As far as the other, things that I say on the side, like the joke, that's not in the Torah, that's just my own, so you can discount my own information. So prior to being here today, I spent about 15 years in the investment business. I started as a broker working for a company, made them a lot of money, and then eventually realized that I'm never going to. First company was JW Genesis, then it was First Union, then it was Raymond James, and then eventually I opened up my own firm. Raymond James, I think, is based out of Florida. So small stuff. No, just everything. Mid-size, mid-caps, small caps, large caps, everything and anything that made sense. So I started as a broker, made some other people some money, and then eventually realized that I have to leave the firm and went to another firm, went to Raymond James, And at Raymond James, I initially worked for somebody there, and then after 2 months of realizing that the guys were refusing to pay me, I decided that it's time for me to part ways with him, but I still wanted to stay in the branch. So the branch manager told me, well, how are you going to pay me rent? You still, regardless of whether you show up to work or not, you have to pay me $4,000 or $5,000 a month. So I don't know, I don't have any money, but I'll figure it out. I've been in sales since I was 10 years old, so I figured one way or another I'll find a way to make money. He said, okay, fine. He said, what's your goal? I said, to buy you out. He was a very confident young man. And imagine right now I'm only in the business for a couple of years. These couple of years I've spent working for other people. I haven't made any amount of my own money. But I'm telling this guy that's been in the business for 25 years that I'm going to buy him out. Foolish, confident, not really sure. 11 months later, I broke a company record. Made $117,000 in a day. About 7 or 8 months later, I made $600,000 in a day. Then I opened up my own company, and then the average month was about between $200,000 to $400,000. And the biggest day of my career was 1.6 million. Made a lot of money. Opened up my own branch, opened up another office, opened an insurance company, broker-dealer, a hedge fund, millions of dollars. Throughout all of that time, there was one thing missing. Happiness. Money, you can throw it out, but still have enough. Happiness you can't buy. But I thought that, you know what? The key is to make sure that if I continue making money, eventually the happiness will come. All this time I thought that Hashem's plan for me in this world was to make a lot of money so I can give a lot of money away. I like giving, I like donating. We donated a few things when we had a chance. And we thought that day, maybe this is my purpose in the world, is to give. Keep Shabbat, didn't even know what that was. Do mitzvot, whatever made sense to me, I did. Pray every day, whenever I had time. Tefillin, twice a week. Whatever made sense to me, I did. I just figured if I don't work on Shabbat, that means I'm keeping it. Time passed. More money came in. More friends came in too. When you get money, you get a lot of friends too. I don't know if you guys have ever had that problem, but you get a lot of friends. A lot of friends. And then one day, Hashem says, okay, you did a few mitzvot that I owe you. And that's why I gave you all this money. But he did one specific mitzvah that made me want to keep you around for a little longer than just this world. How do I know? In a few weeks we're going to read in the parasha that Hashem, that answers a lot of questions that a lot of people have about why is it that some people follow Torah and mitzvot and have a difficult life, tzaddik v'ra'lo. But then there is some people that are wicked, don't follow anything. I was born in Israel. Netanya. I came to the United States when I was 10 years old.
I'm from Benjamin.
So sometimes you see people that do good, they have a tough life. People that don't do good, based on Torah I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just murderers and things that are like that. That's obviously against Torah. But I'm talking about people that keep mitzvot. They do good, they wear kippah, they do tefillin, they study Torah, they do everything they're supposed to do that Hashem said. Assuming everyone believes that Hashem exists, and Hashem created the world, and Hashem gave us this Torah, they do everything He says. And they have a difficult life. And then you have some people that are against Torah. And it just looks like they have everything. Brand new car every other day, house, wife, kids, everything you could possibly imagine they have. I was one of those people. I just didn't know it. How do I know? Because Hashem says in the pasuk over here, "Vayidata ki Adonai אלוהיך, הוא האלוהים, האל הנאמן, שומר הברית והחסד לאוהביו. So this is saying, you must know that Hashem, your God, is the God and is the faithful one, who safeguards the covenant. Meaning that Hashem gave us a deal, He gave us the Torah. There's a few things that are the key parts of being Jewish, and He's upholding it. He's never going to change it, He's telling you. I gave you a deal. A covenant is a deal. A brit is a deal. We made a deal. It's a contract. It's not like a contract you have between two businessmen that one guy is trying to really find another way to find a loophole in a deal. It's not like an insurance company that's going to try to find a way not to pay you. This is Hashem. So He says, I am Hashem. I don't change my mind. שומר הברית והחסד לאוהביו ולשומרי מצוותיו לאלף דור. So He says to the people that I love and love me, I keep it for 1,000 generations. 1,000 generations is figuratively speaking. Obviously it's eternal. But the point He's trying to tell you is that I keep my brit with them, and the reward that they're going to get is for 1,000 generations. ומשלם לשונאיו אל פניו לעבידו, לא יאחר לשונאו, אל פניו ישלם לו. But to my haters, I will pay them to cash to their face. Now, I will not delay their payment. I will pay them now. So this answers the question of someone that has everything but nothing at the same time. Meaning, imagine you have a person that has everything in the world, but one thing that they don't know is that tomorrow they're going to die. Now, if they don't know, they're still going to live life just like any other day. If they knew, how much value would all that money and all they have will really have? The problem is that I was one of those people and I didn't know it. So Hashem gave me different signs, and sign after sign, you always try to make an excuse of why it's not the sign. And what ends up happening is that you continue making excuses for yourself, because if it's true, if the sign is true, if Hashem is true, if the Torah is true, then it obligates you. Then you have to do something about it. I didn't want to do anything about it. The problem with those signs is that each sign becomes a little more difficult. So first Hashem says, hey buddy, wake up. Then it's a little bit of a shake up. Then it's a slap, maybe a punch, eventually a kick, and eventually makat bechorot. Baruch Hashem, I didn't get to the too late part, but I got to the near too late. November 18, 2006, I had an elective surgery for something completely irrelevant, not dangerous. I didn't even have to take care of it, put it that way. I'm not going to get into the surgery part, but I had a surgery. I woke up out of the surgery, I started screaming from pain. And they started giving me morphine, and the morphine didn't work. So they gave me more, and it didn't work. And eventually I started asking everyone around me to kill me, and no one wanted to listen. After a few hours, it eventually stopped. The amount of morphine they gave me was the most amount of morphine legally allowed. They said that usually people would die with half of what I got. But the pain stopped. I was as happy as can be. I felt like I saw Gehenom. And I said, okay, it's time to go home. I actually had a shawarma. I remember that shawarma. You know why I remember the shawarma? Not because the shawarma was so good. It was actually very good. But because approximately 40 minutes after I ate that shawarma, I woke up from bed and I started screaming again. Only this time I didn't stop screaming for 62 days.
Oh my God.
In 62 days, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Something went wrong with the surgery, some type of nerve was cut. To this day, we don't know. But I got the punch, if you will, from Hashem. 62 days, if you can imagine it, we went through it. Whether it's a liver failure, or urinating blood, or blood from the eyes, or infections, everything you could possibly imagine. My body changed forever. After the 62 days, which, by the way, when you can't get sleep for more than 15 minutes in a row on a regular basis, which is like the sleep of a horse according to Chazal, you start losing your mind. Start hallucinating, start seeing things. You don't really want to live. It's not fun. After 62 days, started coming back to life, started getting better, still walking around and very difficult. 9 months later, it was a complication from the original surgery we didn't know about. New infection. It became worse. 10 days in the intensive care unit. 3 months later, another surgery.
How old were you?
26. So imagine seeing a 26-year-old kid with a cane walk slower than an 85-year-old man with a cane. To walk from the beginning of the store to the end of the store would have taken me somewhere close to about 40 minutes. It's
That's
not that big of
before
a
you
store.
had money?
After I had money.
So you had money before 26.
I made my first million when I was 23.
So it wasn't so legit.
Hmm?
It wasn't so legit.
It wasn't?
It's legit.
What do you mean it wasn't legit?
It was a boiler room or
Money I made? 100% legit.
yeah, it wasn't one of them
No, I didn't steal money. No, I didn't
But
steal.
not, you know what, the high pressure
No,
one?
no high pressure, no stealing, no nothing. If you look at my license, I had 8 licenses. I was on CNBC, I was on Bloomberg, I was on CNN, Wall Street Journal, Chinese network. I was on TV. It's a pretty well-known person in the business and legit. So anyway, surgery after surgery, I think 5 or 6 surgeries. Health became a nightmare, painkillers 24 hours a day. Got to a point where I didn't want to live. 1 year after another passed. And eventually, I decided that, you know what, it's time to go. It's time to leave this world. Didn't really want to stay around, but the only reason I stuck around until this point was because of my mom and my wife. Both of them spent their entire life trying to make me happy. I figured I owed them that much. Obviously my father as well, my brothers, but the ones that you saw the tears all the time are the women usually. Guys don't cry. So, one day I decide that I have to start planning. And I start making this whole plan of how I'm going to leave this world. And I decide, you know what, maybe it's my last time I saw my mom on Friday. She wasn't happy, so let me call her and say nice things to her before I leave. So I call my mom, and my mom is crying hysterical, and she says, talk to him. And I ask her, who? Talk to who? She says, talk to Ephraim. Who's Ephraim?
Excuse me. Talk to who?
Talk to Ephraim.
Ephraim.
I don't know who Ephraim is. Never heard of Ephraim. She says, talk to Ephraim, he's your cousin. I'm like, who's my cousin? Never heard of him. He said, fine. He said, I'll call you, please. I said, okay, stop crying and I'll talk to him. Just tell him to call me. So how do we get to Ephraim? That day, at the same time, I'm about to call my mom. My mom is going through a phone book looking for rabbis that are going to give her son, our poor son, some blessings and hopefully heal him after so many years of struggling health-wise. And she starts calling people all over the United States, all over Israel, anyone she could find. Only today, no one wants to answer. HaShem dictated that no one will answer. Eventually, she calls a number in Israel, and a woman answers, and she asks for a certain rabbi, and the woman says in Hebrew, no, there's no such person. It's the wrong number. My mom loses it and starts hysterical crying. And imagine you're calling for an hour, you're trying to find one rabbi, no one is answering. You're crying for your son. You know he's losing it. You're seeing him, he looks like an old man, and he's always in pain. And no one wants to answer. And my mom starts crying hysterical, and all of a sudden the woman on the other side of the phone in Israel, the wrong phone number, says Doris, which is my mom's name. Mom says, well, how do you know my name? Who is this? She goes, it's me, Pnina, your niece. How did I get to you? I don't even have your phone number. We've never spoken on the phone ever. How did I get to you? Because I don't know how you got to me, but if you got to me, there has to be a reason. Why are you crying? My son, he's in bad condition. I think he's dying. She says, well, I'm looking for a rabbi. She goes, well, if you're looking for a rabbi, why don't you talk to my brother Ephraim? He's a big Talmid Chacham, and he lives next door to Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, Zichrono Livracha. You'll talk to me? Of course I'll talk to you. You're the famous aunt from America. So she calls Ephraim. Ephraim is in the kollel, but his wife has him call my mom back. And Ephraim and I have never met. When I left Israel, he was still a baby. And he starts talking to my mom, hears her out, and he asks a question. He says, does he speak Hebrew? She goes, yeah, he speaks Hebrew. He goes, will he talk to me? He goes, I don't think he'll talk to you. He doesn't talk to me even. He doesn't talk to anybody. He became very antisocial. When you're in pain, you tend not to want to have friends. Or family or anyone. At that very moment, when she said, I don't think he's going to talk to you, that's when I called her. At that very moment, remember when I told you a few minutes ago, I told you I called her, and she's hysterical and telling me, talk to Ephraim? That's exactly when I called her. I was calling her to say goodbye, and she's telling me, talk to Ephraim. So you see the Hashgacha Pratit from HaShem, he watches every single step, and he's only going to give you a test if he knows for sure that you're going to pass it. As soon as you get to a point where you cannot pass it, he intervenes. We got to that point. Ephraim calls me. I agreed to have him call me. Ephraim calls me and we talk. And he tells me my favorite story to this day, which is the story about Judah and Tamar. And the complicated parts, the midrashim, and all these different things. And then I ask him questions and he gives me answers. We talk for an hour and 40 minutes. I tell him a problem I have. He gives me a source in the Torah of someone that had exactly the same problem. I ask him a question, he gives me an answer. With computer. Next week, he calls me at the same time, Thursday at 4 o'clock. We have a conversation for 3 hours. Same thing, questions and answers. Week after that, we talk for 5 minutes. Week after that, we talk for 7 hours. And from that day forward, every Thursday at 4 o'clock, we had an average conversation of about 6 to 7 hours. And obviously it became even more than just Thursday. And little by little, we did tshuva. Little by little, we started realizing that the signs wasn't just a, hey, Yaron, I exist. The signs were, it's time to wake up, son. It's time to wake up. You don't want to be the one that gets the payment in this world. You want to be the one that gets the payment in the next world. Even though that may mean that the payment in this world may or may not come. The key is to make sure you get the payment for the next world. Why? Because this world, according to Chazal, is like a hallway. It's a corridor. Where are you going to live? 70 years, 80 years, 100 years? In comparison to the real life, it's nothing. Just imagine a drop of water in the entire ocean. It's nothing. So seeing both sides of the world, seeing the business world and the ultimate success that I think anyone and everyone would ever want, if they're after monetary success, we reached it. Of course, I wasn't the richest guy in the world, but
Close to.
very rich. Enough to buy whatever I wanted. What anyone out there that's after material wants, we had it. But still having that nothing at the same time is mind-boggling, because what's the difference between someone who's depressed that's rich versus someone that's depressed that's poor? The guy that's rich is hopeless. The guy that's poor still has hope. Why? Because he says, I'm depressed now, but once I get money, I'll be rich. I'll show you guys how to be happy. He still has hope that money is going to buy him happiness. So once we got to that point, we realized it's not so true. So since then, we started learning Torah, Baruch HaShem, and Lat we started getting more involved in that life versus the business life. I've closed down my business at this point. I'm more focused on Torah. I try to do kiruv. And my goal today and every day is to try to do two things. To help the people that either don't know or don't believe. If we don't believe, we can try to find a way, scientifically, to prove God. To prove the Torah. Scientifically. Most people like science. They like philosophy, they like science. They like Darwin, they like Plato, they like Aristotle. They like all those people. So we try to prove them through that teaching. The people that don't know, we teach them. Very simple. We try to teach it in a way that's very, very simple. I don't talk about anything that's overly mystical, that's overly high level. I'm not high level. Talk about it in a way that we understand. And if anyone doesn't understand what I say, then please tell me. I've done a lot of, one thing that I do know, that I've spent my career doing, is speak. I know how to speak. So Bezrat Hashem, if you guys can direct me, we'll speak about the right things. Any questions so far?
I just like to make a comment that what I always say is that if you be on a runaway train, you know that in 2 hours it's going to fall off a mountain. You're stuck on this train, in these 2 hours, what do? You don't care if your stock goes down, you don't care your mortgage payment, you make your phone calls to get really loud, you do what you do.
Yeah.
But what we are is basically on a runaway train, but it's 80 years, not 2 hours. So all we have to do is take the same scenario that we have on the train and put it into life. Because life is limited to this life, so we have to look at it and just minimize it into 2 hours and say the same thing you do in 2 hours on the train, do in your life.
Yeah. Kachlon, Rabbi Ephraim Kachlon. Yeah. Now he started putting shiurim on YouTube. We have a little over 100 lectures on YouTube. He's written several books. He's a big chacham, Baruch Hashem. Some of his books are very difficult for the average people to read. No, Jerusalem.
One thing in your story that I think that I need a better understanding is when you talked to him, you started to heal right away because you were at your peak of
I got worse.
It got worse, but then you changed your mind from putting end to everything,
Yes.
and you said, I'm going to give it a shot.
Yes. So when I first started talking to him, things were really bad health-wise, and they got worse. Things weren't as good money-wise, and they got worse. And it continued getting worse. Started losing money, where at the beginning of my career, everything I touched turned to gold. Now everything that was gold turned to
Dirt.
Pain.
dirt. So health-wise got worse. And I was going through my tikkun. I went through 7 years of non-stop pain, 24 hours a day. In comparison to where I was, this is 100% healthy. The
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Was a big part of you wanting to live in this world was you losing the money?
No. I still had millions of dollars.
So it was only the health.
I cared less about money. That's one thing. I mean, it's hard to believe, but anyone that knows me for a long time, like the guy behind you, for example, knows what. Even when I had money, I cared less about money. I only liked making it. I gave away a lot of my money. Most of the money I wasn't one of these guys that had toys like Ferraris and planes and stuff like that.
Right.
I cared less for it. I gave a lot of my money away, either to friends, family, whoever, because money never really meant much to me.
Yes.
But I liked making it because it was a challenge. As far as leaving the world was when you're living 24 hours a day in pain, you tend to lose purpose of life.
Yeah.
So that was the purpose. That was the reason. Now, as far as the situation got worse, but at the same time it got better because I started finding answers to questions that I always had, and answers to questions that I never knew I had. First 9 months of conversations with Rabbi Ephraim Kachlon was literally just questions, non-stop questions, and like a machine, he would answer every question that you could possibly imagine. I've never met anybody like it. And it was on the fly. After some years passed, he used to tell me that before our conversations, he used to pray so he knows the answers. But Baruch Hashem gave him the answers, and that's one of the things also we learned from Chazal, is that when someone is trying to help someone else do tshuva, Hashem gives him Torah. Hashem gives him the word to say. So Be'ezrat Hashem, Hashem gives me the words to say that somebody here needs to hear. That's the key. Once we got to a point that we started seeing some answers and we started seeing a purpose to life, you start wanting to connect, you start wanting more of it. And everything else loses its purpose. So the things that used to affect you in a negative way don't really affect you in a negative way. The things that used to affect you in a positive way don't really matter to you anyway. Life changes. You change. Still the same person, but you change. And the one main thing that I can tell you, you achieve the purpose to life. How do I know that you achieve the purpose to life 100% of the time? Is because the purpose to life that everyone here and everyone in the world has is common. It's the same thing. What is it? It's the one they want to be happy. Everyone in the world wants to be happy. There's not one person in the world that wakes up and says, I want to be miserable today. I want to be awful today. I want to cry all day. Looking forward to it. No one says that. Everyone wants to be happy. Why do we want to make money? So we can have things. Why do we want to have things? So they make us happy. Because we think things are going to make us happy. Why do I want to get married? Because I wanted my wife to make me happy. Why do I want to have kids? Because kids generally make people happy. Why do I want to have all of these things that we want? We attach them to happiness. The beauty of the Torah is that by itself it makes you happy. By itself you wake up and you feel completely different. It solves all problems. It teaches all lessons. And it does everything you could possibly imagine. And that's exactly why Hashem said, if there had to be a choice, I'd rather them leave me than leave my Torah. Because at least the Torah is their way back. When you think about it initially, it's hard to believe. Hashem says if they had a choice to leave Him instead of His Torah, how could that be? Wouldn't you want us to believe in Hashem? Wouldn't you want us to believe in you? Hashem is telling us, believing in me is subjective. It's something that's, you're either going to do it, you're not going to do it, but depends on your own circumstances. If times are good, maybe you'll forget about me. Times are bad, you're going to remember me. Torah, regardless of whether you want to or not, eventually you're going to come back to me. And that's why every Jew is obligated to study Torah every day. Whether you're busy or not busy, you're obligated to study Torah every day. I started with 15 minutes a day. And that's what I recommend to everyone in the world. Start with 15 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, something. 15 minutes. 15 minutes. 1-5. Everyone has 15 minutes. You start with 15 minutes. See if you like it. Get used to it. After a little while, maybe you want more. I will put my money that you do. 15 minutes becomes 25 minutes. 25 minutes becomes 30 minutes. 30 minutes becomes an hour. An hour can become as much as possible. And the reason why is because the Torah is what connects you to God. The Torah is what connects you to happiness. The Torah is what connects you to truth. Without it, life becomes meaningless. So with this Torah, Hashem wanted to give us a book, a love letter in so many words, that's going to teach us how to live, how to achieve life's purpose, how to succeed in business, how to have a successful marriage, how to raise kids, how to achieve everything that you want. That's good. It's in this book. The beauty of the Torah is that every week we have a parasha that we have to read. We have a chapter that we have to read. One of the proofs... Torah. One of the things that is a proof that the Torah is divine, that it has to come from Hashem, and it's not from some writer that wrote a fiction book, is that each week that we read a parasha, if you study the parasha, study it, I'm not talking about study it for 5 years, study it for a couple of hours, an hour, you will find something that's relevant to you personally at that time in your life, that week. Every week that you will read this parasha, you will find something that's relevant to you in that parasha that will help your life.
I did experience that.
Oh Hashem. Me too. And that's one of the amazing things, because if you read Harry Potter books, or you read the any of the other books that are out there that are making millions and millions of dollars for people, not so much. Not so many miracles like that. Not so much help. They're entertaining, but I wouldn't say that you could solve life's problems with it. The Torah helps us do that. Now, we have a lot of different things in these parashot, but there's a few things that we'll go over, and Bezat Hashem, if you guys have any questions in the meantime, you obviously let me know. Last week's parasha was Parashat Naso. Parashat Naso has a very interesting story about a woman that's called Sotah. A Sotah is a woman, a wayward woman, a woman that is suspected of potentially cheating on her husband. We don't know for sure if she cheated, but she's suspected of cheating on her husband. This is a story we can learn a lot about, learn a lot from. In Parashat Sotah, it tells us that this woman is suspected of cheating on her husband because she was in a closed room with another strange man. That's not a husband. In Judaism, that's not allowed. If a woman is a businesswoman or has a reason to be with a man in a closed room, the room has to be openable, meaning that anyone and everyone can walk in and walk out whenever they want. It cannot be locked. This woman was going against the rules. She got a warning from her husband. Don't do this again. She did it again. Her husband brought a witness. Don't do it again. She did it again. Eventually it got to a point where they had to bring this woman to the Kohen HaGadol. The Kohen HaGadol, at this point, was not only the most holy man of the nation, the one that talks to God on a regular basis, but he also was the one that was going to show Am Yisrael a miracle right in front of them. He was the private investigator. How? They had a process where they would take a cup of the holy water that came from the kio, from the tavern. The tavern was the place that the Kohanim, before they did the holy work, they would wash their hands and feet. Which, by the way, other religions that have something called holy water, that's where they got it from. So you know the source. Where did they get holy water from? It's from our Torah also. Everything that's any good in this world is from the Torah. Just so you know. Anyone that doesn't know, anything and everything that's any good has to come from the Torah. Has to have a source in the Torah. Everything. I've tried it and tested it and tested it and tested it. Everything that's any good. Whether it's a good saying, like don't look at the book, don't judge a book by its cover, that also comes from the Torah. Not that specific verse, but it's a verse that says, don't look at the outside of the jar, look at the inside. Everything and anything that's any good, whether it's a saying or something to do, has to come from the Torah. Also another way that we know it's divine. So they gave her this water, and in this water, they took a scroll, they put Hashem's name on it with a specific verse. And they dipped it in the water with some dirt. Dirt that was in the area of the holy tools. And now when you put this ink into the water, what happens? The ink comes out. It erases Hashem's name. Now erasing Hashem's name is a very, very big sin. But Hashem said that for Shlom Bayit, for peace in the home, I'm allowing you and actually encouraging you to erase my name. Which means that if someone has Shlom Bayit issues, someone has problems at home, and refuses to fix them, is doing something worse than erasing Hashem's name. So we know this. So if you had an argument with the wife, or the wife had an argument with the husband, and say, I don't feel like talking to her for next week. I'm going to punish her. Or I don't want to talk to him. I'm not going to talk to him for the next 2 years. Not such a good idea. Always make sure to work on the issues. Make sure that there's always Shlom Bayit. Why? Because that's a way that you achieve your purpose together. When a man and a woman come together, it's not just physical. It's spiritual. Souls become one. So Hashem says, I'm willing to let you erase my name for Shlom Bayit issues. Now she would drink this water. If she cheated, they would know it right away. How would they know? She would blow up and die. Her uterus would blow up, she would die. If she didn't cheat, then she wouldn't die. And she would actually get a blessing from the Kohen HaGadol. Now there's two other things we need to know about it. One is that sometimes they did cheat and they didn't die. Why? Because the husband cheated also. So Hashem is only truth. He says, if he's a cheater and she's a cheater, they deserve each other. I'm not going to punish her for something he's doing. The other thing is also, before they made her drink the water, they tried intimidating her and embarrassing her. The first thing they did, that they write in the verse over here, is that they took off her kisui rosh. ופרע את ראש האישה. הכהן, והעמיד הכהן את האישה לפני אדוני, ופרע את ראש האישה. The Kohen shall have the woman stand before Hashem and uncover the woman's head. This is where we learn that kisui rosh for women is from the Torah. It's not from Rabbanan, it's not some theoretical, it's not style, it's not trend, it's not whether we like it or we don't like it. A married woman is obligated to cover her hair. How do we know? They were saying that the first thing that would embarrass a woman would be taking off a kisui rosh. So even if this woman is actually cheated, even if this woman is a promiscuous woman, cheated on her husband, she would still wear a kisui rosh. Which teaches us that in those days, even the women that were prostitutes also covered their hair. Imagine today, we have women that barely want to wear clothes, let alone kisui rosh. This is also one of the things that we learn from this parasha. The issue of modesty. Modesty is one of the things that no one wants to talk about, but everyone knows is a problem. Kisui rosh is not just about covering the woman's hair, because Chazal tells us, the sages tell us, that a woman's hair, a married woman's hair, is the equivalent of our private parts. Erva. It's as if you're seeing the woman naked. When you see a married woman's hair, it's as if you're seeing her naked. Don't ask me how, why, or when. Hashem said it, that's all we say. Covering a woman's hair is a very, very big obligation. Obviously, if covering the hair is an obligation, of course, being modest with clothing is obligation. But sometimes you want to understand things based on extremes. What do you mean? Sometimes the best way to understand something is by comparing it to something extreme. Because that's how you can see how ridiculous the thing is, the situation is. So you've all heard of the earthquake that happened in Nepal, right? A lot of people died. I'm sure you've all heard by now, there's also a lot of avodah zarah in Nepal. A lot of idol worship in Nepal. Right? In that part of the world, there's also something very, very interesting. Strange, but interesting. They have a temple where they worship rats. 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 You know, rats, the stuff that you try to kill, you put traps, rats. People come in, and they make a big bowl of milk, coconut milk, and they have rats drink this milk. Now, to say that this is insane, obviously I would say you agree. Some of you guys are making me laugh by the smiles that I'm seeing on your face, but the point is this is ridiculous, right? To say this is foolish is an understatement, right? But we can learn something from these people. Ask yourself, what can I possibly learn from such a fool that's worshipping a rat? How do they go to their temple? How do they dress? Kisui rosh, and everyone's modest. Everyone covers. All the women are covering themselves. No such thing as mini skirts. No such things as tube tops. No such things as tank tops. No such thing as the clothes that we call common clothes today. So if to worship a rat were modest, they're modest, imagine what we should do to Melech Melchei Melachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the one true God. So sometimes you see people walk around like this on the street, Hashem Melachem, but that's the way it is, unfortunately. Can't fix the world overnight. One thing we can fix is how we attend our synagogues. Don't show up like a prostitute. Don't show up half naked. God doesn't want to see you half naked. Simple as it gets. This is one simple thing you can do. Whatever way you dress at home, everywhere else, we can't build the Beit HaMikdash overnight. But show up to the Beit Knesset with a little bit of tzniut. Very simple problem to solve. It's not rocket science. This week's parasha is Parashat Be'alotecha. Be'alotecha talks about a lot of different things, and we could spend quite a bit of time about each one of them, but we'll try to find a few things that are interesting
סליחה,
and
אני
relevant.
צריך לנסוע למיאמי.
בסדר, בעזרת השם.
קצת מחר, לקום
בסדר,
בשבע
בעזרת
בבוקר.
השם. בסדר, בעזרת השם. תודה רבה.
נשיא התורה.
אני גר שם. איפה אתה בא?
In the beginning of the parasha, it talks about the menorah. And the menorah was all gold. And it says something interesting. It says, "V'zeh ma'aseh hamenorah miksha za'av ad yerecha ad percha miksha." This is the workmanship of the menorah, hammered out gold. From its base to its flowers, it is hammered out. What does it mean, hammered out? Hammered out means that it was all one piece. It was all one nugget, one gold nugget that they carved out and made into a menorah. And Chazal explains to us that it was actually a miracle when they threw the gold into the fire. The menorah just appeared. Moshe Rabbeinu threw it into the fire, this big giant nugget of gold, and it became a menorah. Now it specifically tells us that it's one piece. What's the significance of it being one piece? One of the things that we learn about this menorah is that having it, being that it's one piece, it's also like Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael is compared to the menorah. We, in essence, have to be one piece. We have to find a way not only to get along, but to help each other. It's a Jew's obligation not only to be religious, not only to learn Torah, but to make his brothers and sisters do the same. To say that, oh, I know a few things, I'm taking care of myself. Listen, he doesn't want to live. Let him leave him alone. Eventually his time is going to come. He's going to be religious on his own. Unfortunately, that's not only a sin, it's a big sin. Because what ends up happening is that Hashem puts everyone in this world for a certain purpose. And sometimes your purpose is to tell someone that Hashem exists. To tell someone that Hashem is here, and He's here. He's the purpose. And He puts you in this world to tell that to a specific person. So if that person does not fulfill his mission, he goes up to Shemayim. Hashem asks him, "You keep Shabbat?" "No, I don't know what Shabbat is." "What do you mean? But you were friends with Moshe." "Yeah, Moshe never told me." Hashem says, "Okay, bring Moshe up here." Moshe comes up. He asks Moshe, "Did you tell him about Shabbat?" "No, I didn't tell him about Shabbat." "But you knew about Shabbat. You've been keeping Shabbat for 20 years. You know about Shabbat." "Yeah, but I didn't want to bother him. I didn't want to, I didn't want to offend him. I didn't want to turn him off. I wanted to keep coming over. We could drive to my house on Shabbat and go to the beach after. What's the big deal?" Eventually I thought he would keep it. He would get the point. If he's been driving to your house for 20 years, obviously he didn't get the point. And what happens? Moshe gets a big part of the punishment. That's the problem for Moshe. Because it's technically Moshe's fault that his friend didn't listen. His friend didn't know. That's one of the things that we need to know, is that it's our obligation to make sure that we have friends that we tell them. The way to do it, if you guys, CDs, there's different rabbis that have CDs. I have a bunch of CDs in my car. I can give you guys, for Rabbi Mizrahi, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi has a lot of different amazing lectures. I can give you CDs, you can put them in your car, you can watch them on TV. A lot of really good things that you can listen to it, you give it to your friends. There's HaShem, it helps them do that. It's one way, that's one of the best ways to do it. Other ways, help them come to Shiurim. And little by little, people learn the truth. Little by little, they want more of it.
Okay, the issue I have.
Question?
Now, do you get once a week lesson
Yes, I do a shiur on my house every Tuesday.
in your house?
Yes, every Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night.
Why don't you change the day?
Why don't I change the day? To what day?
Any day.
Oh, to any other day? Well, Tuesday's a good day. Everybody else.
Tuesday we have a lesson.
You have another lesson. All right, so if we can get Be'ezrat Hashem, if we can get enough people, we'll do another shiur another day. Baruch Hashem, we have more than one day a week to learn Torah.
I didn't want to be chutzpan.
No, it's my goal is to teach as much Torah as possible. If I can teach every day, I'll teach every day. The next thing also we learn is that sometimes you have people that pray to God for something. They pray to Hashem, give me parnasah. Hashem, give me a zivug. Hashem, give me something good. They're asking for something. Eventually the prayers reach God. And God says, you know what? Fine. I'll give it to you. I'll give you a zivug. I'll give you money. I'll give you whatever you want, whatever they ask for. Whatever people ask for, He gives it to them. Instead of continuing to pray to Hashem, instead of continuing to get even closer to Hashem, what do these people do? They go away. Oh, thank you, Hashem, and they leave.
They got what they want.
They got what they want and they leave. In this parasha, we learn a little bit about this. We learn one of the things that we learn in this parasha is Hashem seeing Am Yisrael. We'll finish 5 minutes. Hashem gave Am Yisrael the man. He gave him food from Shamayim. Imagine every day you don't have to work. You don't have to go to work. All you get from Shamayim, you get the best food. You want it to taste like steak, it tastes like steak. You want it to taste like peanut butter, it tastes like peanut butter. You want ice cream, it tastes like ice cream. Imagine that. Amazing, right? Am Yisrael is getting it. Am Yisrael is getting it every day. Instead of saying thank you, they start complaining to Hashem because they want something else. They want meat. They want meat. In this parasha, we learn about how much Hashem hates ungrateful people. Someone that gets what he asked for, prays for what Hashem says, for what he wants. Hashem gives it to him, and instead of getting connected to Hashem, he uses it against Hashem. He complains about it. Or he doesn't, instead of keeping more mitzvot, he keeps less mitzvot. Getting a zivug, but instead of, he finally got his zivug, instead of keeping more mitzvot, he stops keeping Shabbat all of a sudden. Why? He wants to go with his girlfriend to the beach. This is, and some people will tell you, wrong, that Hashem loves everyone. No, that's not true. There are certain people that Hashem, according to the Torah, which Hashem gave us, there are certain people that Hashem hates. He outright says He hates them. One of them is ungrateful people. We need to know that everything we have in this world is only because of Hashem. The least we can do is say thank you. The least we can do is show appreciation by connecting to Him. If we connect to Him, that by itself is a show of appreciation. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll have a little more time next time. But if you guys, unless you guys have any questions in specific, there's quite a bit more we can learn, but I know we're short on time. We started a little late. But unless you guys have any questions.
No.
Questions?
Yes.
You have a question? Go ahead. Yaron Reuven. לא, זה נחשב, זה חומש, זה לא ספר תורה. ספר תורה זה ספור. לא, מותר. כן, מותר.
אתה שואל את האדם הלא נכון.
כן, what's the question? What's the question?
So, when the Sota, the Metacha Sota, when she used to go from the Kohen,
Yeah.
and she would drink the water,
Yeah.
then she wouldn't die.
Yeah.
The Kohen would bless her.
Yes.
And if her husband cheated,
Yeah.
she wouldn't die.
Yeah.
She would still get a blessing,
She would still get a
because
blessing.
you wouldn't really know.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. Actually, there's one thing I forgot to say, is that it's actually a chidush, Baruch Hashem, we got this week, about the cup she was using was from cheres, from clay. Everything in the Torah has a reason, meaning that there's no such thing as Hashem mentioning that it's from clay, which they call earthenware, or cheres, for no reason. It has to be a reason. So why did Hashem tell Aaron HaKohen, tell Moshe Rabbeinu, listen, the cup that you're going to use for this sotah, make it from clay. Why not from steel? Why not from glass? Why not from something else? A few weeks ago we learned Parashat Shmini about the purity and impurity. And it said there's different things that get purity and there's different things that become impure. So for example, if there's a dead animal that touches something, it becomes impure. Now, in this parasha, it tells us about the different stages of impurity. But there's one thing that cannot be purified, and that's clay. Meaning that if you have, let's say, a clay cup, and if something impure touches it on the outside, it's fine. But if something impure, let's say it's a bug or a dead, a rat, a dead rat goes even inside, doesn't touch it, but goes inside a little bit, it immediately becomes impure, and you cannot purify it. Whereas everything else, like steel or glass or everything else, you put it in the mikveh and it becomes pure. Okay, what does this mean? The cup that they gave the sotah was also made of clay, to symbolize that so long as everything is from the outside, someone's looking, what can you do? Someone is saying, it's on the outside. The minute someone has even a little bit of the inside of the woman, it's no longer pure. What does it mean? With the clay, what you have to do with it once it becomes impure is you have to break it. Just like with the marriage, you would have to break if there's ever cheating. And it's not necessarily just cheating. Also, in Shlom Bayit issues, you also know that if a woman develops a relationship with someone, it's not always physical. It's also emotional. It becomes much, much more extreme. And this is one of the things that we have to learn, is that even though in our past life we always want our wives to be friends with our guy friends, it's not always the best idea. It usually isn't a good idea. Even though it seems like harmless, a lot of bad things have happened from it. And there's plenty of stories that you can learn from those things. From people that, one day they were married, the next day they're divorcing. Why? Because she's going with his best friend. Or he's going with her best friend, or something like that. It's not just women, it's men too. Obviously, it takes two to tango. As far as the sotah, it's, again, it's a good question you're asking about if she doesn't die. Because he cheated. But I know that the bet din, there's a bet din shel mata, there's a bet din shel mala. There's a bet din here and there's a bet din up there. Sometimes there would be people that everyone knew was guilty, but they can't prove it. They can't prove it without, 100%. And the bet din, the Jewish bet din, there cannot be any type of uncertainty. It has to be 100% sure that the person's guilty for them to give them a death penalty. To the point where Chazal says, if there was one death penalty in a bet din every 70 years, the bet din is considered too extreme. It's too strong. Not good. They're doing something wrong. Because unlike the regular court, the secular court, where you're constantly trying to prove the people guilty, in the Jewish court, in the Jewish bet din, you're constantly trying to prove the people innocent. You're constantly trying to find a way of how they didn't violate it, or there isn't enough proof that they did violate it. And that's also one of the big differences between our court and the secular court. Generally, if we have an option, we're not allowed to, if we have to choose to go to a bet din or to a secular court, you're not allowed to go to the secular court. You're only allowed to go to secular court if you have no option, if someone's suing you. Or you have to sue someone and there's no way that he's willing to go to a bet din. Anything else? last thing, if you guys want, if you have 2 minutes, we'll. The last thing in the parasha, it's going to be interesting. You'll probably hear about it this weekend. This is actually the parasha we learn about Lashon Hara, the significance of Lashon Hara. Miriam and Aaron are talking, and they start talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, and they say, listen, Moshe Rabbeinu left his wife. Hashem told him to leave his wife. He's saying Hashem told him to leave his wife, Tzipora. What is it? We're also prophets. Hashem didn't tell us to leave our wives. So Miriam is telling this to Aaron, saying Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu. Not in a way that she's meaning to harm him. She's thinking that he's making a mistake. Hashem comes to them and he tells them that Moshe Rabbeinu and you are also prophets. But the type of prophecy that Moshe has and the type of prophecy that Miriam and Aaron has, nothing similar. Not even close. The type of prophecy that Moshe Rabbeinu has, very, very high level prophecy. No one has ever had the prophecy that Moshe Rabbeinu had. Everyone that gets prophecy, other than Moshe Rabbeinu, was always either sleeping, having a seizure, they're always laying down or sitting down. They could not stand up. And that's why they say Moshe Rabbeinu is the only one that had prophecy, was standing, was walking. You talk to Hashem like you and I are talking to each other now. And because Moshe Rabbeinu, at any given moment, was able to talk to Hashem, Hashem said that he had to be pure all the time. And that's why he could never have relations again with his wife. Miriam and Aaron, each time they wanted to have a prophecy, they had to go to the mikveh to become purified. Because their prophecy there was like almost like an appointment with Hashem. It wasn't whenever they wanted. So because Miriam said something that wasn't good about Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem punished her. And he gave us something called tzara. Tzara is a spiritual and a physical disease. The pain that I was describing before by myself, not even close to that, much, much more. And there's no cure. All of Am Yisrael started praying for Miriam. It didn't work. Aaron comes to Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, please, she's our sister, she's our blood. Pray for her. Moshe Rabbeinu says one sentence, and she's cured. Which shows you the significance of Moshe Rabbeinu neged the entire nation. That's why it says that Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer are like the entire nation. The equivalent of the entire nation. But this teaches us about Lashon Hara. Because sometimes we are very, very easy to say bad things about people when we don't really know the whole story. I read the story. It said that this woman, one day she meets this other woman in a work environment, and she works for some vendor. Anyway, she tells, they start working on some project together. And she says, listen, this is not my kind of business, but I'll help you out anyway as a friend. Because we live in the same community, I'll help you out. Sure. They exchange some emails. They work on this project, she helps her out, and that's it. A few months pass. Woman A sees woman B. Says hi to her. She doesn't even acknowledge. She goes, hey, nothing. Doesn't really welcome her. Doesn't she helped her out a lot. Woman A gets so upset. She starts telling her friends, this woman, I helped her out so much. I did so much for her. I could have charged her so much money. I didn't do anything. It became the devil. So one of the friends listening to this says, maybe you should meet her sister. She has a twin sister and she's much nicer. Meaning that the woman she helped was the first woman. The woman she saw was a completely different one. But she already assumed it's the same woman. Sometimes we don't know the entire story. And that's why we're obligated to give kaf zchut to every Jew. Sometimes you don't know why a Jew is, or any person is speeding on a highway. Maybe he's going to the hospital, lo aleinu. Sometimes you don't know why someone's angry. Maybe he just lost his job. Maybe just something happened. You don't know. Try to give people kaf zchut. Try to make sure that, don't just be in a hurry to say bad things about people. Even if it looks bad, the reason why Hashem gave us an imagination is so we can use it to give people kaf zchut. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we learn as much as possible from the Torah of how to give people kaf zchut. And we'll see each other next week.